Well, I'm out here walking. It's a rainy afternoon after a nice thaw, and just found a nice shed. Here it is, see? Awesome. Oh yeah, there's 2 cows here. Should pick them up. See that bad boy? There's one there. There's the other. Well, that's exciting. Never know. Oh boy, he's got beams on him. Last year's, I think. Matching side. Sure enough, that there is a match set. Yeah, I know him. Nice 2-year-old. Nice 10-point. Short brows, but he'll be a good deer. A couple years. Awesome. Well, Jake and I came out today to one of my farms and had a really good afternoon. We actually picked up 8 in total, I think. All in all, it was a great day, and I mean, we're starting to stack them up. Every year, when it comes to summertime, you know, I launch all my cameras on all my farms. And my ultimate goal is to try finding one mature buck at least that I can get patterned for the beginning of season. There was this big buck that was a big 9 that I called the Framy 9. And he blew up into about 160, 165 inch deer. All right guys, it's the beginning of August, and I've had a camera here all summer. I just pulled it the other day and saw there's a big 9, a big typical 9 that's been here showing up. He's here every 3 or 4 days during daylight, so I'm putting a Spartan Go cam out here, so now I can stay out of here. If he keeps that same pattern, which I think he could because we got standing corn here, this is a secluded corner. Over the years, these deer, big bucks, tend to stay back here and continue to the beginning of season when corn's in here. So they just feel safe. But this year, I'm here. So this farm's a small 25-acre farm, and back in the southwest corner is where the corn meets the timber, and there's a driveway with some machinery that everything just pinches down to one spot. And over the years, that's just been the reliable spot I've always had a camera. And year after year after year, especially when it's corn, there's always at least one mature buck there in velvet daylight. And oftentimes, over the years, they tended to stay daylight going into season, but you know, I'm not gonna sit here and get my hopes up because I know, you know, beginning of October, they're all leaving bachelor groups, they're all going, changing their patterns and going nocturnal. It's opening day, and one of my favorite things is I have a great friend coming to film me. And it's not every day I get some help filming, but my good buddy Jake Goodwin was able to jump in the blind with me today. And he and I tend to have a pretty good streak when it comes to getting some animals on film and harvesting something. You know, not to jinx anything, but we had a pretty good streak. Go get him. Dude, yes.
I'm gonna let the wife know we got some quality Iowa white-tailed meat in the freezer and another decoration for the house.
So, as we're coming out to the farm, it's really windy, it's nasty. You know, starting to sprinkle rain a little bit, and I mean, everything feels great. But the problem is, the buck I'm after, I'm not 100% sure where he's been coming from. He's been coming from this one direction for the most part in the evenings, but I wasn't 100% sure, so I didn't know what wind to hunt it on. But if I was playing the odds game, a northwest wind is what I wanted. And so Jake and I sneak into the blind and we get all situated and whatnot. And I mean, gosh, it was 5 o'clock, still 2 hours before dark. And I look down over the bottom and I see a branch swinging.
And I tell Jake, I'm like, dude, I think there's a buck there making a rub on that seedling down there. And sure enough, he zoomed in, and there was a gorgeous 2 or 3 year old down there, rubbing on a sapling. And I mean, immediately my mind's like, is tonight the night? You know, could this really happen?
He was here 3 nights ago, 5 p.m. He was here a couple nights ago at midnight, but he frequents every 2, 3, 4 days in the evening during daylight. So it's raining now. The next couple days supposed to warm up. Then a 20-degree drop on Thursday. So I went back here Thursday, but I'm hoping tonight with this rain coming back in, gets him on his feet, comes right here, presents me with a 20-yard shot. There's one right there. There's a deer. I don't know if it's a 2-year-old or what, but dude, it's the big 9. It's the big 9, man. Get ready. Holy smokes, holy smokes, holy smokes. Look again. Yeah, he's just standing there looking at us. Looking around. Chewing some acorns or something. Yeah, I think it's acorns. Dude, he's absolutely huge, man. I think he's coming this way. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and get ready. I can't believe this. Can you see him still, Jake? Okay, I got eyes on him. Okay. He's coming, man. He's coming. He's coming right up the pipe. Get ready. I see him. You see the big one? I do. Is he coming? Yeah. Get drawn. He's working his way in.
So he's walking behind this machinery and he stops. And you know, the wind's blowing and I'm just paranoid. He's at 40 yards at this point. He's in range, but he's like stopped, staring there, looking around, listening, making sure everything's safe. You know, nothing's changed for him back there. It's that secluded corner. And my heart's beating a million miles an hour, not knowing what's gonna happen. And you know, then I see him flick his tail and turns my way. So as he came through the machinery, I knew it was gonna happen. And I got situated and I drew, and next thing I know, he's about 10 yards and he stops. And this is right as I'm anchoring, you know? So I've gone through most of my draw cycle. Right as I anchored, you know, his head perked up a little bit. So I thought he heard the arrow or heard me or something. I didn't want him to bust us, look up in the blind, see me or nothing. I don't know. I had all kinds of things going through my head, but as soon as I settled that pin, I asked Jake if he was on him, and he was, and I absolutely smashed him.
Just absolutely smoked him, dude. We got him. Oh my gosh, that was a beautiful shot, man. Dude, absolutely freaking awesome. Trailed him. We just, the deer we were after, big Framy 9. Oh my gosh, dude.
So after I made a great shot, there's only one phone call I had to make, and that was good old Curtis Getch, because I told him he'd be the first one I call as soon as I laid the hammer down, and sure enough, he was kind of a little bit in disbelief when he answered the phone.
What's up?
He's dead.
No, really?
Yeah, really. Just smoked him about 12 yards.
Woo! That is amazing,
Dude.
It was already an amazing night having one of my best friends in the blind with me recording. The only thing to make it even better was to have my dad come out and help with the track job.
He went 50 yards, 60 yards.
Maybe, yeah.
Holy cow. I think it's awesome. What do you think?
It's more mass than you think, dude.
He does have more mass than I thought, too. But his beams are huge. Love how these things hook up on the end.
Yeah.
You know? Giant 9-point.
Be interesting to see what he scores.
Oh, man, I can't wait to get taped to this guy, too.
Yeah.
Man alive, it's awesome.